Right. Before the glorious noise of an internal combustion engine, the world moved at a much, much slower pace. Imagine a time when the fastest thing on the road was a horse. One horse, maybe two if you were a bit posh. A rickety wooden cart, trundling along a muddy track, praying the horse didn't decide to have a sudden snack, or get spooked by a particularly aggressive squirrel. It was slow, it was smelly, utterly dependent on an animal that could get tired, sick, or stubborn. Journeys we now finish in a lunch break took days. Going to the next town was a proper expedition, a grand tour. You had to plan for stabling, for feeding the beast, for stopping at inns along the way. The world was smaller because travel was a monumental faff. Society organized itself around that limit. People lived their whole lives within a few miles of where they were born. Then, in 1886, a German chap with a magnificent beard, Carl Benz, had a brilliant idea. He looked at the clunky stationary engines chugging away in factories and thought, what if I put one of those on a tricycle? It sounds simple, almost childishly so, but it was an act of pure genius. He created the Benz patent motor wagon. This wasn't some steam-powered monstrosity that took half a day to fire up. This was the world's first proper car. It had a dinky little single-cylinder engine that ran on petrol. It produced less than 1 horsepower. Yes, you read that right. It was officially less powerful than the horse it was meant to replace. This first car was a fragile, spindly thing. It looked like a bath chair that had been in a fight with a sewing machine. It had 3 wheels, tiller steering instead of a wheel, and a top speed that would barely trouble a moderately athletic tortoise. But none of that mattered. What mattered was the principle. It was a self-propelled vehicle. You didn't need to feed it, you didn't need to clean up its mess, and it wouldn't run off if it saw a particularly juicy patch of grass. You just poured in some fuel, fiddled with some levers, and with a cough and a splutter, it moved under its own power. For a while, cars were just expensive toys for the fabulously wealthy. They were hand-built, unreliable, cost more than a house. If you owned a car in 1905, you were basically telling the world you had more money than sense. Then, an American visionary named Henry Ford came along and changed everything. Ford wasn't necessarily a brilliant inventor, but he was a genius of production. He looked at the slow, painstaking process of building one car at a time and said, "This is rubbish." He had a simple, powerful dream, to build a car for the great multitude. He wanted a car so affordable that the very men who built it could own one. His answer was the Model T, and more importantly, the moving assembly line. Instead of workers running around a stationary car, the car moved past the workers. It was revolutionary. The assembly line was brutal, efficient, and utterly transformative. It slashed the time it took to build a car from over 12 hours to just 93 minutes. This incredible efficiency meant Ford could slash the price. The early days of the car were a bit of a Wild West when it came to fuel. It wasn't all about petrol. For a time, you had 3 main contenders battling for supremacy, like a 3-way boxing match. In one corner, you had the electric car. Yes, really. They were quiet, clean, and easy to start. No hand-cranking an engine into life. They were popular with doctors and ladies, who preferred not to arrive smelling of fumes and covered in grease. But they had a massive problem: batteries. In the second corner was steam power. Steam cars were the drag racers of their day. However, they were basically a giant kettle on wheels. And then, in the third corner, the scrappy underdog that would win it all. The internal combustion engine, running on gasoline. It was the Goldilocks solution. It's impossible to overstate just how much the car has changed the world. It's not just a way to get around. It's the architect of our entire modern existence. Before the car, cities were dense, compact places you could cross on foot. Afterwards, they exploded outwards. The concept of the suburb was born, a place where you could have a house with a garden, but still work in the city. This created the daily commute, the traffic jam. This new mobility changed society on a fundamental level. It gave us a freedom that was previously unimaginable. Of course, it hasn't all been a glorious, sun-drenched road trip. The car has polluted our cities, and so the car continues to evolve. We stand on the cusp of another great revolution, with electric from Carl Benz's 3-wheeled contraption to the electric supercars of today. The car has been and remains the most powerful and transformative machine we have ever created. It gave us the world we know, for better or for worse.